Good morning. Do you hear me okay? Yeah, great. Okay, so we're going to sit together for about 45 minutes and then I will read one of the teachings of the Buddha. Enjoy your meditation. Ding. So, today's sutta is inspired by yesterday's group interview. So at yesterday's group interview, we had this thing about everybody feeling everybody else can do it, but I can't. This very common insecurity that we hold as meditators. Maybe everybody else's meditation is better than mine. I'm not getting anywhere. Everybody else can do it, but I can't. I'm the hopeless case, me. I know I felt like that at times in my meditation journey. I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to. So today's sutta is given in the way of reassurance. A very famous sutta. I think a lot of you will know it already. And it is the story of Angulimala. Angulimala was a mass murderer. He'd already killed 999 people, and he collected their fingers and he wore them in a chain around his neck. So Anguli is like finger, and Mala is this like garland. So he had a garland of fingers around his neck. 999 he'd killed, and he was off to kill his 1000th, and he was thinking it would be his mother or his father. And the Buddha intervened, and let's see what happened next. Thus I have heard, on one occasion the Buddha was living at Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's Park. Now on that occasion there was a bandit in the realm of King Pasenadi of Kosala named Angulimala, who was murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. Villages, towns and districts were laid waste by him. He was constantly murdering people, and he wore their fingers as a garland. Then, when it was morning, the Buddha, dressed and taking his bowl and outer robe, went to Sawati for alms. When he had wandered for alms in Sawati and had returned from his alms round after his meal, he set his resting place in order, and taking his bowl and outer robe, set out on the road leading towards Angulimala. Cowherds, shepherds, ploughmen and travellers saw the Buddha walking along the road leading towards Angulimala and told him, "Don't take this road. On this road is the bandit Angulimala, who is murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. Villages, towns and districts have been laid waste by him. He's constantly murdering people, and he wears their fingers as a garland. Men have come along this road in groups of 10, 20, 30, even 40, but still they have fallen into Angulimala's hands." When this was said, the Buddha went on in silence. For a second time and for a third time, the cowherds, shepherds, ploughmen and travellers told the Buddha not to go, but still the Buddha went on in silence. The bandit Angulimala saw the Buddha coming in the distance. When he saw him, he thought, "It's wonderful, it's marvellous. Men have come along this road in groups of 10, 20, 30, even 40, but still they've fallen into my hands. But now this recluse comes alone, unaccompanied, as if forcing his way. Why shouldn't I take his life?" Angulimala then took up his sword and shield, buckled on his bow and quiver, and followed close behind the Buddha. Then the Buddha performed such a feat of supernormal power that the bandit Angulimala, though running as fast as he could not catch up with the Buddha, who was walking at his normal pace. Then the bandit Angulimala thought, "It's wonderful, it's marvellous. Formerly I could catch up even with a swift elephant and seize it. I could catch up even with a swift horse and seize it. I could catch up even with a swift chariot and seize it. I could catch up even with a swift deer and seize it. But now, though I'm running as fast as I cannot catch up with this recluse who is walking at his normal pace." He stopped and called out to the Buddha, "Stop, recluse, stop!" The Buddha says, "I have stopped, Angulimala. You stop too." Then the bandit Angulimala thought, "These recluses, sons of the Sakyans, speak truth. They assert the truth. But though this recluse is still walking, he says, 'I've stopped.' Suppose I question this recluse." Then the bandit Angulimala addressed the Buddha in stanzas thus: "Whilst you are walking, recluse, you tell me you've stopped. But now, when I have stopped, you say I have not stopped. I ask you now about the meaning. How is it that you've stopped and I have not?" The Buddha says, "Angulimala, I have stopped forever. I abstain from violence towards living beings, but you have no restraint towards things that live. That's why I have stopped and you have not." Angulimala says, "Oh, at long last this recluse, a venerated sage, has come to this great forest for my sake. Having heard your teachings, I will indeed renounce evil forever." So saying, Angulimala took his sword and weapons and flung them into a gaping chasm. And he paid respect at the Buddha's feet, and he asked for the going forth. Then the Buddha set out to wander back to Savatthi with Angulimala as his attendant. Wandering by stages, he eventually arrived at Savatthi, and there he lived at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's Park. Now on that occasion, great crowds of people were gathering at the gates of King Pasenadi's inner palace, very loud and noisy, crying, "Sire, the bandit Angulimala is in your realm. He's murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. Villages, towns and districts have been laid waste by him. He's constantly murdering people, and he wears their fingers as a garland. The king must put him down." Then in the middle of the day, King Pasenadi of Kosala drove out of Savatthi with a cavalry of 500 men and set out for the park. He drove thus far as the road was passable for carriages, and then he dismounted from his carriage and went forward on foot to the Buddha. After paying homage to the Buddha, he sat down at one side, and the Buddha said to him, "What is it, great king? Is King Saniya Bimbisara of Magadha attacking you, or the Lichavais of Vesali, or other hostile kings?" "Venerable sir, no, those kings are not attacking me, but there is a bandit in my realm named Angulimala, who's murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. Villages, towns and districts have been laid waste by him. He's constantly murdering people. He wears their fingers as a garland. I shall put him down, venerable sir." "Great king, suppose you were to see that Angulimala had shaved off his hair and beard, put on the yellow robe and gone forth from the home life into homelessness, that he was abstaining from killing living beings, from taking what is not given and from false speech, that he was eating only one meal a day and was celibate, virtuous, of good character. If you were to see him thus, how would you treat him?" "Venerable sir, we'd pay homage to him or rise up for him, invite him to be seated, or we would invite him to accept robes, alms food, or a resting place, or medicinal requisites, or we would arrange for him lawful guarding, defence and protection. But venerable sir, how could such an immoral man, one of evil character, ever have such virtue and restraint?" Now on that occasion the venerable Angulimala was sitting not far from the Buddha. Then the Buddha extended his right arm and said to King Pasenadi of Kosala, "Great king, this is Angulimala." Then King Pasenadi was frightened, alarmed and terrified. Knowing this, the Buddha told him, "Do not be afraid, great king. Do not be afraid. There's nothing for you to fear from him." Then the king's fear, alarm and terror subsided. He went over to the venerable Angulimala and said, "Venerable sir, is this noble lord really Angulimala?" "Yes, great king." "Venerable sir, of what family is the noble lord's father? Of what family is his mother?" "My father is a Gaga, great king. My mother is Mantani. Let the noble Lord Gaga Mantani Putta rest content. I shall provide robes, alms food, resting place and medicinal requisites for the noble lord." Now at that time the venerable Angulimala was a forest dweller, an alms food eater, a refuse rags wearer, and restricted himself to the 3 robes. He replied, "Enough, great king, I have enough." King Pasenadi then returned to the Buddha After paying homage to him, he sat down to one side and said, "It's wonderful, Venerable Sir, it's marvellous how the Buddha tames the untamed, brings peace to the unpeaceful, and leads to Nibbana those who have not attained Nibbana. Venerable Sir, we ourselves could not tame him with force and weapons, yet the Buddha has tamed him without force and weapons. And now, Venerable Sir, we depart. We are busy and have much to do." "You may go, great king, at your own convenience," says the Buddha. Then King Pasenadi of Kosala rose from his seat, and after paying homage to the Buddha, keeping on his right side, he departed. Then when it was morning, the Venerable Angulimala dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, went to Savatthi for alms. As he was wandering for alms from house to house in Savatthi, he saw a certain woman in difficult labour, in painful labour. When he saw this, he thought, "How beings are afflicted, indeed, how beings are afflicted." When he has wandered for alms in Savatthi and had returned from his alms round, after his meal he went to the Buddha, and after paying homage to him, he sat down to one side and said, "Venerable Sir, in the morning I dressed, and taking my bowl and outer robe, I went into Savatthi for alms. As I was wandering, I saw a woman in painful labour. When I saw that, I thought, how beings are afflicted, indeed, how they are afflicted." "In that case, Angulimala, go into Savatthi and say to that woman, 'Sister, since I was born, I do not recall that I have ever intentionally deprived a living being of life. By this truth, may you be well, and may your infant be well.'" "Venerable Sir, wouldn't I be telling a deliberate lie? For I have intentionally deprived many living beings of life." "Then, Angulimala," said the Buddha, "go into Savatthi and say to that woman, 'Sister, since I was born with a noble birth into this holy life, I do not recall that I have ever intentionally deprived a living being of life. By this truth, may you be well, and may your infant be well.'" "Yes, Venerable Sir," said Angulimala, and having gone into Savatthi, he told that woman, "Sister, since I was born with a noble birth into this holy life, I do not recall that I have ever intentionally deprived a living being of life. By this truth, may you be well, and may your infant be well." Then the woman and the infant became well. Before long, dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent and resolute, the Venerable Angulimala, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge here and now, entered upon and abided in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. He directly knew, birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is no more coming into any state of being. And the Venerable Angulimala became one of the Arahants. Then when it was morning, Angulimala dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms. Now on that occasion someone threw a clod and hit the Venerable Angulimala's body. Someone else threw a stick and hit his body. Someone else threw a potsherd and hit his body. Then with blood running from his cut head, with his bowl broken and with his outer robe torn, the Venerable Angulimala went to the Buddha. The Buddha saw him coming in the distance and told him, "Bear it, Angulimala, bear it. You're experiencing here and now the result of deeds because of which you might have been tortured in hell for many years, for many hundreds of years, for many thousands of years." Then, while the Venerable Angulimala was alone in retreat, experiencing the bliss of deliverance, he uttered this exclamation: "Who once did live in negligence, and then is negligent no more, he illuminates this world like the moon freed from a cloud. Who checks the evil deeds he did by doing wholesome deeds instead, he illuminates this world like the moon freed from a cloud. The youthful bhikkhu who devotes his efforts to the Buddha's teaching, he illuminates the world like a moon freed from a cloud. Let my enemies hear discourse on the Dhamma. Let them be devoted to the Buddha's teachings. Let my enemies wait on those good people who lead others to accept the Dhamma. Let my enemies give ear from time to time and hear the Dhamma of those who preach it, of those who speak well in praise of kindness, and let them follow up with kind deeds, for surely they would wish no harm on me, nor would they think of harming other beings. So those who would protect all, frail or strong, let them attain the all-surpassing peace. Conduit makers guide the water, fletchers straighten the arrow shaft, carpenters straighten out the timber, but wise men seek to tame themselves. There are some that tame with beatings, some with goads, some with whips, but I was tamed by such a one who had no rod nor any weapon. Harmless is the name I bear, though I was dangerous in the past. The name I bear today is true. I hurt no living being at all. And though I once lived as a bandit, known to all as Angulimala, one who the great flood swept along, I went for refuge in the Buddha. And though I once was bloody-handed, with the name Angulimala, see the refuge I have found. The bond of being has been cut. Whilst I did many deeds that led to rebirth in the evil realms, yet their result has reached me now, and so I eat free from debt. They are fools and have no sense who give themselves to negligence, but those of wisdom guard diligence and treat it as their greatest good. Do not give way to negligence, nor seek delight in sensual pleasures, but meditate with diligence so as to reach the supreme bliss. So, welcome to that choice of mine, and let it stand. It was not ill-made. Of all the teachings resorted to, I've come to the very best. So welcome to that choice of mine, and let it stand. It was not ill-made. I've attained the triple knowledge and done all that the Buddha teaches. So, this is the story of Angulimala. However much of a hopeless case we might be feeling that we are, I think I can safely say that none of us here have murdered 999 people and worn their fingers a garland round our neck. And yet there was hope for Angulimala. He made a fresh start. He became fully enlightened. If Angulimala can do it, surely we can do it too. So if any of us have been feeling stuck and frustrated, then today let's welcome in the fresh start energy. And again, loosen our grip on anything we might be clinging to, including any unhelpful perceptions of self that might be holding us back.